Hello, today I wish to talk about the book Note from Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I've already given my thoughts on this book. However, I was yet to finish it then, and now I'm done with it. And as a matter of fact, I'm reading another book by Dostoevsky, The Idiot. And it just occurred to me that, hey, I figured it would be better for me to give my thoughts now that I've truly read the book and what I think about the underground man. So it's an interesting read. I would again advise you to read that book, okay? And let's say the first lesson I picked from that book was that it was a reinforcement of what I have always known, that whatever experience I'm passing through in life, someone else has passed through it or someone else is passing through it, okay? And there was a time I resonated very well. I once resonated with that man from the underground because I understood the process that led him there. Okay, it was a combination of ego, it was a combination of pride, it was a combination of him believing that he operates at an intellectually higher level than the others, and as a consequence he neglects people around him and considered them as inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, and he he withdrew into his silo where only him understood himself. Now the downside of that was not having friends and not having a lady for a girlfriend and be nice to it, and sometimes not even pushing away your family members and only reading and reading and reading and writing and writing. But you come to realize at some point that these are not truly what life consists of. Life is more than that, okay? And because you've played that character for a long time, you can no longer drop it as easily because people will call you a fool. And in the quest to not be a fool, because a man as intellectually capable, I'm telling you what he might be thinking. A man as intellectually capable as himself cannot be considered a fool. And as a consequence, he will dwell in misery instead of screaming out for help, instead of abandoning that persona, okay? And he would die in misery. That's the downside of it. So I understood that, and it is a sad life. It's a sad life to live, and in I have seen people, I see people live that kind of life and justify that kind of life and defend that kind of life, okay? Myself, at a point in my life, was that kind of person. If I were to be honest, okay? I was that kind of person, but it's all about dropping that your ego and dropping your pride and admitting shame. The first step towards knowledge, true knowledge, the first step towards transparency, the first step towards not the first step towards what those traits I just mentioned is to admit shame and step down to a level you assumed to be beneath you and start building from there. Okay, and then if there are ideas you don't want, if there are ideas you no longer resonate with, you dump them. Okay, people are going to laugh at you, but allow them to laugh. People are going to throw shame at you, but allow them to throw shame at you. You deserve the shame, and then you accept the shame, and out of that shame, birds a new you. I suppose what I'm trying to say is that it is very difficult for you to get to that level because it requires a ton of will. Okay, you need will. You need to be strong-willed, and if you are not strong-willed, you will revert back to the persona that you've been putting up in for a long while. Okay, and the best way to my understanding on how to overcome that is to change your environment. I guess this is the central message of this video. If you find yourself in a condition you are not comfortable with, if you and you've tried to get out of that condition and it is hard, and if you can't change your environment, change your environment. Change your environment can mean moving out of the country. Changing your environment can mean moving out of the state. Changing your environment can mean moving out of your neighborhood. Changing your environment can mean as little as distancing yourself from whatever group that you have performed for all those while. Okay, you create as long you create a wide bet between you and them, and it frees you. Okay, it reduces the will that you need in order to start displaying your true character. And I understand I understand why people put up those personas. Okay, putting up a persona in life is not inherently bad. Okay, it's as a consequence of living in a society, because when you live in a society and you are growing up, you as a kid you are pure, but then you perform some acts and you get scolded. You perform some acts, you get thumbs up. Over time you realize that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm supposed to do in terms of right and wrong. The same applies to our personality. At times you display your true self, okay, and you get a negative feedback from people, and then not it might not be negative, but as a consequence of their insecurity they project, and you not being firm in your character, you subdue that in order to please them, if that makes any sense. You do that for a long while, you start subconsciously portraying who you are not. And the older you get, the more the friction between your true self and that persona. And you get to a point where you just want to get rid of this. But because you've performed this character for a long while, you've put up this persona for a long while, you attracted some friends, some people have gravitated towards that persona. And they truly they truly feel you resonate with them. But deep down you know you don't resonate with them, because that's not the true character, that's not your true self. Okay, that's just a persona you are putting up. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that I understand how people get to putting up personas unintentionally. It's not as though people wake up, and there are people who do that and then say, hey, this is what I'm going to, yeah, it occurs. This is what I'm going to put up this morning. It occurs over a series of years. Over years you add a bit of you you add a bit of items into that persona, and over 10 years you realize that, whoa, this persona has this ton of items that I truly don't resonate with. Okay, so you need to dump them, and the best way to dump them is to truly change your environment. Okay, when you change your environment you drop your ego. When you change your environment, you take away that external force wanting to reinforce that persona. I suppose that's the reason, that's the problem the underground man felt, because towards the end of the book, the way they started the book was magnificent. Was the way he started. Dostoevsky started the book was magnificent. He admitted he was in a state of misery. He said he was a spiteful man. He said he believed his liver was diseased, but he did not want to see the doctor out of spite. He would want friends, but he wouldn't want. He never reached out to be friends with people, because he to a degree believed he resonated, because he believed to a degree that they are not at the same intellectual wavelength as him. And then even the lady who at the end, towards the end of the book, gravitated towards him and liked him, but as a consequence of that, his vulnerability started spilling out, and he noticed that, and instead of truly addressing that vulnerability, he was in awe and he was shocked, and he locked it all back in and lashed out at that lady. Okay, so insecurity galore in him. So i I figured the best way to, if you find yourself in such a scenario, the best way to overcome that is to change your environment. For one thing, change your environment, and after changing your environment you need to also be able to accept shame. Okay, that's one step. Let go of your ego, let go of your pride. Okay, and then start on a new slate and start interacting with people, and start talking with people, and start going out and start, even when you have a feeling that this person is not at the same intellectual cadre, whatever that means, whatever that means, you still interact with people. People are people, okay? Man is a social animal, okay? The alternative to that is misery. If you don't do that, you end up like that note from the underground, and you write from underground. You live a life full of misery. You only write, you only read, and you find yourself slow in life. You find yourself sad in life. You find yourself depressed in life. Okay. You find yourself depressed in life. And that is what I suppose social media has done to most people, because I know I'm deviating, but it looks as though the most of the problems, should I deviate now? Well, yeah, most of the problems man faces is as a consequence of isolation. Okay, man is a social animal. Okay, you must interact with people. Okay, you must figure out a way to interact with people, and that is one way to survive. All right, isolating yourself and praising yourself and putting yourself on some crazy pedestal leads to misery. You can't place yourself on a high pedestal and be happy in so far as you still interact with people. You must interact with people, or at least find a good number, find people who resonate with you. But then it's hard to find people who resonate with you when all you do is wallow, isolate yourself. Okay, if you are being true to that isolation, then it's going to be very impossible to find people who resonate with you, because they are also in their A game, isolating themselves, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, that's what I think about Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and have a great day.